Welcome to this Sahara 4 exercise. In this exercise, we will have a deeper understanding of the production window options regarding groups. For that, we will open our Sahara project and we will select the following ones. 98, we shift click here. Now 102 here as well, and 103. Now we have the three of them selected. We have used shift to keep adding more wells into the selection. So now we have by default we have the sum option here in the format, which means that we have the aggregation function of the variables that we are plotting is going to be used to sum sum or average the total of the three wells. In this case, as we are only plotting productions, the the value that we are reviewing here is just the sum of the production of oil and the sum of the production of liquid. If I unselect any well, we're going to see the difference when adding or not this production. So now we will save this. We have already saved it. Yeah, it was already saved before. We will create a new template in this opportunity, and the new template is just going to have the production of oil per month. So we will look here, we are going to check that this is in axis date format, so everything is fine here, and in the y-axis we will add a new curve, and by using these three selection variable selection menu, we will select total calendar day. So now we have the oil production for the sum of the oil production for these three wells. We have other options here. If we go to the name of the chart, we are going to call it production or just oil production. This chart, now with this name, we can go to format and use other options, for example overlay. Here in overlay, instead of seeing the sum or the aggregation function of the variable that we are plotting, we are going to see each curve separated. So, but the problem is that all of them are going to have the same color because they are using this color user option. That means that the color that is being selected is the one that is defined in this menu here. So if I change this one, we're going to see that the color of the curve changes. And this is not very useful because we don't know to which well each curve belongs to. Even if we have references, all of them have the same color, so it's not very useful. So now we will go back to this branch here with the name of the graph of the plot, and we will change this to, for example, random. And here now we have the production of each well differentiated, with now the references being more useful because we now have different colors. So now with this setup, we have a more useful overlay graph. So here in these options, we can also have, for example, instead of overlay, we can use a stack. Now for the stack option, we are going to zoom here, and what we're going to see, the first well that has production is going to we are going to see just the production of this well, and now we are going to see that the contribution of the next well that was added, the one in dark green here, is going to be added to the curve of this well. So, and finally, when we add the third well, the red one, we are going to see here just the production of the well that is in red, that will be 98. Here the production of 98 plus 102, and here the production of the three wells summed together. So this is a good way to visually recognize how much each well is contributing to the total. So we are stacking the productions. In a similar way, we have normalize, which is the same, but the total is normalized to unity. So in this case, we can see that in this first stage, 100% of the production is coming just for the well 103. Then here, for example, in this date in May of 2018, 20% of the production is coming from the well 98, and the rest, the is the 80% that is missing to have unity, is going to be coming from 103. And here, if we go to another date, we can, for example, see here that in February of 2018, um, the 20% of the production is coming from um, the well in red 98. Then the sum of 98 and 102 is going to be 60%, so we can say that in that sense 102 is producing 40% of the total production, and the rest, the other 40%, is coming from the last well 103. So in this other graph, in this other plot, what we can see is also the contribution of each well to the total, but in this case it's going to be normalized to 1, the total production. Another option that we have available is mean. In this case, so mean, we have several options here, we will explain what they are. And now the plot is showing the arithmetic mean of the oil production of the 3 wells over time. Now we have different options here. In this case, when we use mean n wells, this is going to do the sum of the phase that we are plotting. In this case, oil, and is going to divide it always by the number of wells. In this case, 3 wells. Um, Here is going to check if we, for example, have the oil phase, if the wells are producing oil, to check if it's going to use it when calculating the total number of wells. So, for example, if we have a time where the one of the wells is shut down and it's not producing any oil, it's not going to be considered that we have 3 wells. We are only going to have 2 wells. So the same is going to do with the different phases. If we only want to do the mean of when the considering the wells only when they produce any gas, we are going to use this option. As we can see, the wells on every time that they have gas, they are going to have oil. So in this case, the curve is going to be the same. And here for liquid as well, if they are producing any liquid, as we can see, this is going to give the same result as the oil case, because we all these wells are going to produce oil and liquid, so the result is going to be the same. But for example, if a well in some point of time was converted to injector, it may not be considered, for example, for this calculation for liquid, because there is going to be a time where the well is injecting water and is not producing any liquid. So in that case, in that period of time, we are going only to have 2 wells instead of 3. Now we are going to review the format options associated to layers. In this case, we have overlay layer, stack layer, and normalized layer. For that, we need information that is loaded on the layer level instead of object level. If you have been following the previous exercises, in the previous one to this one, number 18, we imported allocation factors in the water injected phase. So now that information is loaded on the object level, we know how much water we are injecting in the whole well, but also we now know also how much water we are injecting in each layer. So now we are going to create a new template, and with this new template we are going to graph the water injected on the layer level. We are going to go to monthly productions. First we check that we are on date here, that's okay, and now we go to monthly production, history, injected water. And now, instead of selecting the object level, which will show us how much water is being injected on the whole well, we are going to select the layer level, total and calendar day. So now the information that is being plotted is how much water is being injected over time in the layer 17. If we select another layer, we are going to see a different curve, because now we have how much water is being injected on the 28th layer, and so on and so on for the different layers. Now I will select another well as an example. Let's go with D42. And here, if I use Control and start adding more layers, here, you can see that the total amount of water injected is always going to increase, because I'm adding up because I'm using the format sum here in the production window. we are going to always use the aggregation function defined on the variable to add the new information of the different layers. And as we are talking about water injected, the aggregation function is always going to be sum. So the result is that we are adding up the injection of the layers that we are selecting. If I select all the layers here by holding shift, pressing on the first one and then pressing on the last one, this curve that we are going to have as a result is going to be equivalent to plotting the water injected on the object level. So if we want to see how much we are injecting on each different layer, we can do it by changing from sum to using, for example, overlay here. And now this is not very useful because we are using the same color for each layer. We can modify by going here to color and selecting, for example, random. That is going to assign a random color to each layer, or we can use layer here in this option. That is going to assign the color defined here in data, layer data, and original static data. And here each layer is going to have a different color, which will be used here. For this example, I will keep it on random. We can also use, for example, stack layer. And now, as we have discussed previously, the stack option is going to show how much water is being injected on each different layer, one on top of the other. So, for example, let's go here. The layer 7 is injecting in this date, January of 2010, is injecting 417 barrels per day, and the sum in the same date. Let's go to the same date here, and the sum of the layer 7 and the layer 35 is injecting 2300 barrels per day. We can do the same here with normalize, which, as we discussed previously, is the same, but the total amount of how much water is being injected in the well is normalized to 1. So the sum of all the layers selected is normalized to 1, and then we can see how much percentage stack one on top of the other is being injected in each layer. Here we can also, it's going to be more clear with this option, we can also modify, for example, if we go to the variable that we are plotting and select here steps, we can use areas here, and we have here a more useful graph to check the stack injection of each different layer. So by checking on the width of each different color, we can see how much percentually we are injecting on each different layer. We can do the same for example, normalize, and do the same. Here we have a graphic visualization of how much we are injecting on each different layer in this well. So that will be everything for this tutorial. We have reviewed the different grouping options that we have when plotting either information in wells or information on layers. So thank you for watching, and I hope it was useful. Have a great day.